mi comunidad, ¿cómo están todos? Chief Roca, how you doing, everybody? This is Chief Roca coming to you from the Allentown Police Department. We're in our monthly podcast. I have a special guest with us today. We have Sheriff Hannah from Lehigh County Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Hannah, it's my great pleasure to have you here today.
Sure, thank you, Chief. And I just want to say what a privilege and a pleasure it is to be here with you today, to be back in this building here at the City of Allentown Police Department. I can say that, just to tell you a little bit about myself, I came from, born and raised in Allentown, came from rather humble beginnings. My parents lived with my grandparents in the 6th Ward of Allentown when I was born. A short time later, they moved to the east side of Allentown. So I have the privilege of calling myself a 6th Warder and an East Sider. But I was educated, and I say very proudly educated, in the Allentown school system.
I think we share that, don't we?
We certainly do.
Along with Husky Pride.
Along with Husky Pride, absolutely. And I can say this much, and I know that you do this, but both of us have never lost that Husky Pride, and I was just there yesterday. I know that you're going to be speaking there in a few weeks, and it's important for us to get our message back, especially today, to the youth, to let them know that there are no limitations on what they can do and what they can achieve.
That's absolutely correct. We have to do our part as community leaders to invest in our youth and to motivate, because sometimes some kids don't see that future and think just day by day. And I think, like you said, it's important that we're present, that we provide resources for our young people. And it's not just a monetary thing. It's a respect thing. It's a training a young person how to lead and also how to follow, because it's important to learn that positive steps. But some of the things that I want to talk about is kind of going back, because you were a former chief of police in the city of Allentown, and you were my boss on several occasions in different times throughout my career. So for that, I don't know if you know this, but I want to tell you that you were one of my best mentors that I had here in the department. And I'm not just saying that because you're the sheriff or because you were my former chief, but because the personality that you had, the wisdom that you put forth. Can you talk to us about how and when you became an Allentown police officer, and then how you transitioned over into the sheriff's office?
Sure. By the way, I'm very humbled that you would say that. And I know that you subscribe to the same thing as far as mentoring young police officers, because they are, in fact, the future of law enforcement. And it's a very difficult time now for law enforcement. So it makes it even more important for people like ourselves to recognize that and to really work hard in mentoring people. I started with the Allentown Police Department. Well, I graduated from Moravian College, and my last semester at Moravian, I did a field internship with the Allentown Police Department. And I think that's what kind of hooked me on the police department. I took the test. I was lucky enough to be hired in the first round in 1979. I spent 8.5 years on the street, working patrol, the whole city, the paddy wagon, and then I was promoted to detective sergeant in 1988. Spent about 9 years there. Was then promoted to lieutenant in community policing and crime prevention, a place that I didn't really think I'd have a desire to go to. And it was probably the best 5 years, one of the best 5 years I ever spent in law enforcement. I've developed friendships with the community, worked in partnership with them, much like you're doing right now, Chief, and they have become lifelong friends. And I think you and I both enjoyed that, and when we went to the Leonard Buck banquet
Yes,
recently, you see how the public has embraced us, and that's very rewarding.
And I think that's part of the equation in getting the community to know that we're not a separate entity, but we're here to help. We're part of that fabric. Some of the things that I tell our community, it's unity through the community, right? And that's something that is very important. And you've carried yourself very well through the department. You were one of our police chiefs. Can you comment about how, when you took the mantle of the department, what your goals and aspirations were for the department as a whole? Because I know for me, we had a small conversation beforehand, and I said, being chief, it's not just about Charlie Roca. It's about the 200 plus men and women professional officers that are here, and how we can work together to make our community, the city of Allentown, the best it can be. And by virtue, Lehigh County or Lehigh Valley on a larger scale. So can you comment as to how being chief of the department and what some of your goals were back then at the time that you were chief?
Sure. My tenure as chief was relatively short, but I spent 7.5 years as the assistant chief of operations, running much of the police department at that time under the tenure of former Chief Roger McLean. And one of the things that I've coined a term when I was here, and it's the me factor versus the we factor. And I think it's human nature for when you're starting out at any level of law enforcement or even in private industry, you have the me factor. What's in it for me? As you move up in rank, and especially in the position of chief of police or in my position as sheriff, you have to embrace totally the we factor, because it certainly is not about any individual, and it's for the good. You move the organization in a direction which is good for the organization, it's good for the community, and it's good for every single one of your police officers, or in my case, my deputies.
Absolutely. And talk to me a little bit about the transition then from when you were elected sheriff of Lehigh County. How did that impact you? Was it a change from being chief of police? What sort of programs or goals did you put in the Lehigh County Sheriff's Department?
It was, even though it's still a form of law enforcement, our responsibilities are relatively limited compared to what your office does, what other police departments do. And our primary responsibilities are the safety and security of the judges, the courthouses, movement and transport of prisoners, warrants, bench warrants, service, civil process, and a number of other ancillary things. But one of the goals, I had a plethora of goals when I stepped in here, and some of them, my timeline was somewhat unrealistic. I thought I'd have everything done in my first term. I'm now 6.5 years in, but we've achieved some very monumental goals, and I couldn't have done that without a very strong command staff and without my deputies embracing those goals and objectives. Give you an example, accreditation. You're accredited here through the Pennsylvania Law Enforcement Accreditation Commission. That was one of my primary goals. We had a little bit of a setback because of COVID, or we would have had this done probably about 2 years ago. But last year, we received accreditation. I'm very proud of that.
And you should be proud of that. I was very honored to be there when you received your accreditation from the PA Chiefs. And so that's something that is absolutely phenomenal. And I thank you guys for doing that, because I think it just shows our community that not only is the police department committed, but the Lehigh County sheriffs and law enforcement in general, that we can work together and meet those standards, so that we can provide what I call that professional policing, professional law enforcement model to our community. Because sometimes the media may not kind of put forth law enforcement in a positive light, but we know that we want to get out the full information, and that is not just words. It's through the actions that our officers, our deputies, our people put forth in their day-to-day interactions. And that brings me to something that you had talked about, is that community. And I think the strongest way to fix issues in the community is working with our community, making advocates of people within the neighborhoods. Over the years, you have made many good connections with people, many friendships, people that would come to you and tell you about what's going on in the neighborhood. And in a larger picture, for those that are listening or those that will listen later, it's important that those pieces of information that they might have dealing with anything from the police department to the sheriff's office that gets passed on. So I'm very thrilled and happy for you being sheriff of Lehigh County, and I can tell you that I've seen a phenomenal increase of a relationship between our police officers and the sheriff's deputies. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the collaboration between the Allentown Police Department and the Lehigh County Sheriffs.
Well, that's much to your credit, Chief, and the fact that I think we have like minds in regards to we can't do things independently. Right. And the fact that you have offered up your officers to work shoulder to shoulder with our deputies. And what I found is I found that there is a enhanced respect for the Allentown Police Department from our office, and it's been reciprocal. That's what I've been hearing back from my deputies. And the important thing is that we have to see each other as one, because that's the only way that we can enhance protecting the public, and we are public servants. I've always said that that's something to be proud of when you are a public servant. And there are two words. You're a servant to the public, and that's something that we can't forget.
That's correct. Great words, and thank you, Sheriff. Let me look here. We have a good morning from Don Moyer. Good morning, Don. Thank you for reaching out. One of the things I do want to say is that our community also is a majority-minority community here in the city of Allentown. Many members that speak Spanish, but we also have a high Middle Eastern population. And I know that you're Middle Eastern as well, and it's something that I think is huge, that you come from the community and that you're able to connect with people in multiple ways, perhaps some language, perhaps some communication, but it kind of gives those ties that bind, kind of a frame of reference that you understand. And I know many officers seek out to understand the different cultures that are out there, because I've always said that the rich diversity that we have in the city and in the county is something that makes our community stronger, because there's so much that people can put forth to build up. Because what I say to council, what I say to the community is, we are one piece of the puzzle. You came into the sheriff's office, you said, with some high aspirations of what to do, and it took a little bit of time to get there. And I think that's the way that we work here as well in Allentown, because we take an issue or an initiative, but it's not always about being reactive. It's about being proactive. And how that would work is by getting that transparency and legitimacy in our community. Because if our community understands the process and the flow, then we'll have more people apt to kind of take part in the mission that we're trying to do. One of the things that I do talk about too, and I'd like to get your thoughts on it, is from the year 2000 until now, we're relatively at the same level of police officers that we had. And based on our population, which is now 125,000 that's counted, I'm sure we also have a population that's not counted, which I would love to make sure that everybody's counted so that we can get the proper resources across the board. But my question is, I want to raise our complement of police officers, not for the fact of over policing or arresting more people and putting people in jail, but to institute good initiatives that we're doing. Our police officers answer the call every day, as do the sheriffs, and we're out there in the community. And so I want to get your thought on, raising our numbers of officers and what your thoughts are in that capacity.
Well, the thing is, we should be reflective in a microcosm of our community. So we're all struggling as far as recruitment goes in law enforcement today. And it truly is a struggle. However, I think it's important that we identify the best and most qualified, first and foremost, but equally, they have to be reflective as to the ethnicity, the color, even religion, okay? And I've tried to institute that early on, and for as much as we're having trouble with recruitment, I think we have a very good complement, a cross-section of our community, right down to identifying the importance of religion. The Muslim community. We have a large Muslim community.
Absolutely.
I have deputies that are Muslim, so they know how to identify and interact with anybody that comes in and into the courthouse or into the government center. And that, as leaders, that's something that we always have to work toward.
This is true. So, no, those thoughts are very good, and thank you for that, for sharing that, because what can you tell someone, some young person that is thinking of entering the field of law enforcement, and do you think that it would be something that they should go for? Because we talked about a little bit about the problems with recruiting, but I think there's been some negative attention waylaid over to the police side of things, law enforcement side of things, and the actions of some officers do not reflect the entirety of the profession. And it's important, key, that we as a community of police officers, and you said it best yourself, that the process to get officers, deputies, is thorough. Because an interesting stat that I want to share with you is that 1 in 10 candidates are viable to get the spot of a police officer here. And so if we have people, young people that are wanting to become law enforcement, I think that we get the message out to start young. And that's what some of the programs that we have. I know that the sheriff's office also does reach out into the community with different programs. And what are some of the programs that the sheriff's office engages in to connect with our community and our youth?
Our community outreach, which we started probably about 5.5 years ago, is just universal and open-ended. We reach out to the schools, to some of the community groups, Kiwanis. We do presentations there. And one of the things that I found when I was campaigning for the first time to be elected to this office was the common question that always came up was, what does a sheriff do? So we have a PowerPoint, go out, explain exactly what we do, and the importance is also the revenue that we generate that goes back into the county coffers. So we are a revenue generator, and I think it's important for the taxpayers to understand that.
And that's perfect. And, it's all points to consider, because we want to make sure that the taxpayers know that the taxes that they're paying are going to good things in the community. Public safety is probably priority number one for many residents in the city of Allentown, as in the larger Lehigh County area. But it's about working together. And in that collaboration, that spirit, I absolutely 100% agree with you. What in your time, what would be, considering your APD time and then the sheriff's, what is your most memorable law enforcement moment?
Oh.
And I know it's probably a little bit of thinking with that, because I have several, I think, but to boil it down to one or two.
I've been doing this for 43 years consecutively. So you kind of put me on the spot here, Chief, because there's just been so many great moments. The ability to solve a crime, especially major crimes like homicides, to bring closure to grieving families, I think is probably the most rewarding thing, at least for me, and I think that would be echoed by many police officers. But, the interaction, the everyday interaction with the public, and it's not all bad, okay? You're responding to calls, but you're resolving issues. And I think that is probably the most rewarding thing. We don't look for fame. We don't look for fortune. We certainly don't get fortune in this job. But the self-rewards are priceless. They really are.
Absolutely great points. Bringing justice to a family that has experienced a loss of life for something as a homicide is absolutely tremendous. And I've seen it done over the years, and to the victims, to the families, because it's not just the decedent, it's the victim's family, it's everybody that knew that person that is suffering, has some form of trauma, to bring justice to them and begin the healing process, because it's not just we close the case and we forget about it. These are things that officers remember, detectives remember throughout their entire course of time, even when they retire. So it is absolutely vital. And I think
I'll give you an example.
Absolutely.
about 25, 26 years ago, I investigated a homicide of a young father. And he left a wife and 3 small daughters. And every Christmas in that time, I was able to arrest 4 people in that. And 2 of them, one got life, 2 are still on death row, and 1 got 20 to 40. And every Christmas I call his widow, and we have a nice conversation. From the time that the little girls were small, they're all married now. They have children of their own, and I make it a point every Christmas to call her just to see how everyone's doing. And I think that's, there's a job element in policing, but we can't forget the human element.
We're human.
Yes.
We're not robots, and that's something that I see from you, and it's something that I kind of try to emulate, because as I said, when I went through my career here in the Allentown Police Department, especially starting with the FTO process that we tell our new guys, you're going to learn some things that you like. You might dismiss some things you don't, but you come through the change and you utilize what's correct. And policing is ever evolving. There's some groups that are calling for the defunding of police or law enforcement. There's some that are completely calling for the abolishment of it. But I think the message remains clear that we're a piece of the puzzle, and that we have that human aspect to it. We have that compassion. We have the ability to connect with people that may not want to be connected with, but we're there, and we're going to police. We're going to conduct law enforcement activities the same in all instances across the board within the parameters of the law. Because one of the things I got interested in was TED Talks, and I heard former Philadelphia Commissioner Ramsey talk about what is the role of a police officer. And I've mentioned this on podcasts before, but it's a mantra that I go by as well. He asked, what is the role and function of a police officer? And he kind of answers himself saying, it's protect, it's to serve, it's to protect property. But the number one thing that he put forth is you have to have the ability to protect the constitutional rights of all people. And that, if you reflect on it, is huge. Because as a police officer, we are entrusted with power from the government, but we have to do so fairly and justly. And our very approach in empowering our officers, having a good training curriculum, having mentors in the department, and then also reaching out to our youth, creates this flow of good officers that are coming up through the department to eventually be leaders. Off camera, before the podcast started, I made the comment that sitting here, I never thought that I would be the chief of police, and I think you reflected the same. But for me, as it came about, now that I'm chief, I want to be able to empower our police officers to become full members of this community, because you'll never hear me talk about separate, working in silos. We have to break those barriers, and I think you said it best by, we're one big family. A lot of people have those connections over time. It might be years in the making with your 43 years in law enforcement and meeting with people, along with your time from before being in law enforcement. So, it's the community that with relationship building, with reaching out on different topics, that we can affect positive change in our world, because we are stewards of our neighborhoods, and everyone has a piece of that. And it's absolutely important that happens.
Well said, Chief. And, I still teach at the academy, as you know, and one of the messages I always get out to the cadets, is that you will have the power to take one's liberty away. There's no greater power than that, and you must always respect that power. And also, when talking about the community, there is a silent majority out there that support us, but we're all professionals. We represent everyone equally, as you said, and even those that are anti-police, we represent them equally, and we are there for the call for everyone.
Beautifully said. And that's the point right there, because law enforcement has to be done professionally. It has to be done to a standard where people feel safe in our communities, and we're going to be there to be kind of I used to when I was the West End captain, I used to go to the community meetings over there and say, listen, and I was all very sincere with this, is that not only am I the West End captain, but I'm an advocate for you on the West End. And now I carry that view over as chief. I'm an advocate for the entirety of the city when it comes to law enforcement, public safety. So that's beautifully said, Sheriff. And in this time, what message do you have to the community? Where would folks go if they wanted to reach out to the sheriff's office?
I've maintained, much like I've done here as the chief, an open door policy. I'm always accessible. My command staff is accessible. They can call us at 610-782-3175 for any questions they may have. If they would like myself or any of the members of the department to come out, speak to any of the youth, anything at all, any organizations, we will always make ourselves available.
Sheriff, I absolutely thank you for coming here today. Is there any last message that you want to let the community know before we conclude?
Well, I just want them to know, and I'm speaking universally about every law enforcement agency, that we are here to serve you, but more importantly, we're here to work with you. And we can't do this without you, especially in today's climate. We depend on you just as much as you depend on us.
Thank you, Sheriff. Ladies and gentlemen, this was Sheriff Joe Hanna from the Lehigh County Sheriff's Office, an excellent person, great mentor, and a community leader. Thank you, folks. Stay tuned because we're going to be transitioning to our monthly podcast. If you're going, have a great day. If you're staying, stay tuned for additional information. Thank you.
I'm Officer James Stank with the Allentown Police Department.
It's important that if you have a community concern, something of that nature, you pick up the phone and you call. That way that call can be logged and it can be dispatched appropriately, and we can send the proper resources to whatever location or whatever call is out there. And sometimes, it's something that through our community outreach work we can also address. So that way if information is received for the tip 411, that's a perfect way to get to us. The other program that I want to underscore and underline is our Checkmate program. Now that program is an excellent thing that has been in creation forever. It's been on the rotation. It basically is a form that we would get to you through our crime prevention office, and you would fill out the form and you would get back a Checkmate number. And in the Checkmate number, you simply would call the communication center, and rather than providing identifying information or saying who you are, you can simply provide Checkmate number, say 1234, and that way that call will be dispatched to our officers. And on their mobile data terminal, it'll show that the caller, the complainant, is Checkmate number 1234. If there's additional questions that we have, or it leads to some sort of interaction where we do need to talk to you, then we will do that, but we'll do so discreetly, and we'll do so within the parameters of the law. But there's many ways that we want to connect with our community, and it's important and key that you understand what those are. And for those that aren't watching, spread the word. I talk about advocates in the community, and I sincerely believe that our citizens that are engaged with us have that information and will do this, but we want to reach those that may not have time to watch a podcast or are busy doing work or otherwise engaged. So it's key that we spread this information out there. And again, if you don't know or you have further questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me as the chief or to our community outreach unit. You can send them an email, apdcommunity@allentownpa.gov, and we will answer back to you. If it's not right away, it'll be a day or two, but excuse me, we'll get back to you. And that's something that I firmly believe in because our community is important. The key stat that I do want to talk about is proactive patrols. We had 1,084. Our total firearms recovered was 124. So, folks, that's so far since January, we've taken off the streets 124 firearms. And it appears to me that we're going to be on pace to pass or surpass last year's total. And it's key that we work it together, because the information to prevent gun violence is about being engaged and not accepting that, because the person that is choosing to engage in that type of violence is someone that we need to hold accountable. In the previous session with Sheriff Hanna, we talked about, what was the most memorable moment that you had in your law enforcement career. And he spoke about resolving a homicide case, bringing justice to a family. But if we can work together to prevent that. Now, from a law enforcement perspective, yes, our primary responsibility is law enforcement, but that's not our only responsibility. We are also reaching out to the community and engaging our residents and citizens for their assistance during those times. If you see something, say something. We have that Tip 411, the Checkmate program, the calls for service. Sometimes it might seem that the officer is taking a little bit to respond, but I can assure you that we're going to be there and we're going to take the effective action for it, because we're part of this together. It's not separate. It's not anything that it's police versus them or anybody else of that nature. The people, I want to repeat myself, the person that is choosing to engage in crime is the individual that needs to be held accountable. And that is not, there's no magic wand to solve that. It takes dedication, partnerships, relationships with our community, and having the ability to know that we are in this together. I don't want to see apathy develop, okay? I was recently over at the Midway Manor neighborhood park, and they had expressed that there were some young people that were jumping around on the rooftop of the snack shed and of the school, and that they were breaking some of the picnic playground equipment that was on the field there. That's absolutely unacceptable, and we need to do better as a community. We need to come together. We need to report these activities. We will have officers in that area to check things out, but oftentimes you, our private citizens, are our eyes and ears as well. And we want to make sure that that information is passed on so that we can act on it appropriately. I know the East Side, especially the Midway Manor, loves some of our officers very much, and they really want them to be around. The officers don't work 24/7 as far as the one specific officer, but we will engage and we will have the ability to connect. So please just remember to reach out and go forward with that. But the stat that you've seen on the screen there is very important, because we're doing the job, and I want to thank our police officers, our criminal investigators, our community outreach unit for working together during this past month. And just of particular note, our vice unit is engaged with conducting many of these apprehensions on these firearms. And just in the last month, they seized about 13 firearms in the month of May to take that off the street. So those are guns that cannot be used in criminal activity or to harm our community. And it's something that they don't always get a pat on the back. But our officers work hard every single day, and I will sit here and talk to you today, and I will underscore that and underline that, because the work that they do is second to none. I am absolutely amazed and thrilled with the efforts that our patrol, our CID, our VICE, our investigators, our community outreach unit does, because day in and day out, they're leaving their families, they're coming to work, they're doing the job, and many of them live in and around Allentown, and we have a passion for this city. We want to see it be successful, because I strongly feel how Allentown goes, the community will go. And it's something that we're in this together, folks. It's not a separation. We're going to do it together. And some of the works that our officers have been doing have resulted in apprehensions of individuals, with the firearms, with different armed robberies, the apprehension of the individual that had the fatal crash, who was taken into custody, arrested for homicide by vehicle. And then on February 15th, that's when that incident happened. So we want to bring this person to justice, and that will go through the process. One of the things that we want to do is, our officers responded to a water rescue over on the east side at Adams Island. And that was on Thursday, May 19th of this year at about 7:16 p.m. Patrol officers responded along with fire and EMS, and the information that was received that was that this adult male fell into the river and he had been submerged. So our officers did strip down out of their uniforms and did proceed to go into the into the river and got the individual up onto the deck, and with the assistance and help of our fire department and our EMS, they were able to perform CPR. I got to tell you, this gave me chills when I heard it, but our officers did receive a proclamation for that at City Council, and for City Council, thank you for doing that. It's absolutely awesome. But they had a lady that was there that lived in the community there, and she said that initially there was no brain activity to the submerged adult male, but for some miraculous issue, the brain activity came back, and they expect a recovery. So I'm very excited to see when I can have a conversation with this male, because I want to talk to him, I want to shake his hand, and sometimes we talk about what a miracle is, and I would submit to you that this is probably a miracle. I'm not an authority in that, but it kind of gave me the chills when I heard her talking about there was no brain activity, and then there was. So there's something else happening here. So I just want to say thank you to that. I'll ask community for continued prayers for them and their family. I absolutely thank Officer Balichek and Officer Garinger for their efforts that day, along with the firefighter and the EMS that responded. I know both those officers don't feel that they're heroes, but I will tell you that you are, as are our other officers that work day in and day out. So thank you for that. And it's huge. And on top of it, with City Council too, there was a proclamation given to Officer Cunningham for his work involved in the Detective James Stanko softball tournament. TC did a lot of legwork on that, in addition to other officers and the people that donated different gifts. And I did attend that softball tournament, and it was a phenomenal day. We had the horses from Bethlehem there. Thank you guys for stopping out. The fire department, all different teams from other organizations, and it was a well-attended day. Of course, Geekers Tacos were there. Always good to stop through and say hello. So thank you to Geekers Taco for being there. Everybody that donated any gifts or presentation awards and things like that, thank you. We can't say it enough. This is what community is about. It's about coming together. I think we'll very much miss Detective Stanko. Just this past Sunday, we were out at Mission Barbecue having a motorcycle contest event where people would drive with their motorcycles and it would be judged. Our community outreach unit was there along with various motorcycle groups. We want to thank Mission Barbecue for hosting it. I want to thank the Whitehall Police Department. Chief Marks, thank you for having us in your jurisdiction. People came out. My parents came out, everybody that was there. The Stanko family was there. If you stop in right in the door, you'll see a picture of our beloved Detective Jim Stanko there, somebody that's going to say hello to you. And it's pretty fitting that he's right there, right in the front, because, Jim was always a guy that would shake your hand with a firm grip, say hello, and make you feel welcome. And that's something that we as a police department want to express to our community. You're not alone. You're not without protection. You're not without an advocate. As the chief, I'm the advocate for our city, and I want to make sure that our police officers are in that same step, because we're in this together. There's no division. It's about coming together, having that unity, and being able to do well. One of the things that we held this year too, or this past month, was bike training. It's one of the most versatile things that we do, because it allows our officer to get out of the car and kind of utilize that bike, and plus it's a great activity. And I want to talk to Detective Garcia to talk a little bit about what being a certified bike officer and what the training kind of entails. Detective Garcia, do you care to comment?
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, everybody, for listening today or watching. Just a reminder real quick, we'll be on YouTube, we'll be on LinkedIn, we'll share this everywhere. So if you don't have a chance to stay with us all day, or I'm sorry for the remainder, please stay, come back later, share the live, share the YouTube. But yeah, so Bike Patrol, I had the privilege. Many know that, along with other folks, I work with the social media and capturing all the things that we do. We put out a wonderful video of our instructors, our PIMBA instructors. So it is the pinnacle training for a mountain bike police officer. So, it's a week-long course, long miles, a lot of slow riding as well. And, cone course, agility tests. You name it, they did it. They had to go on the firing range as well. And so it was a great week. Our academy is one of the academies in our local area which host this training, and we have the trainer instructors that are wonderful, been doing it for many years. So I encourage you folks to please check out our Facebook. We put out a wonderful video. Sergeant Schlegel, Officer Coons, Officer Thurman, a lot of these wonderful individuals that been doing this for years, and we were able to capture some of the training. So by all means, it was great training. And for me, of course, many know I love cycling. So, we're at that time of year where we're allowed to go out on the bikes and visit the schools and visit the parks and just be out in the community on a bike. And it's just a great way for community policing. So great stuff, Chief.
Thank you, Detective Garcia. Much appreciated. And thank you to Sergeant Schlegel, Officer Coons, and Officer D'Argenio. You guys are the prime example of what it means to lead from the front. And I want to appreciate and recognize your achievement. And thank you for not only training our officers on proper police bicycle mountain biking, but also other officers from different departments that came through and were able to get certified as bike officers and now are able to come back to their communities and provide that benefit to the public. And that's an excellent thing. And for those young people that are riding bikes in our community, don't hesitate to reach out, because we're here for you. We want to see you be successful, but also to operate a bicycle safely and effectively, because we don't want to see you get injured or anything of that nature. And these guys know a lot of things, like some of the things I learned on how to deal with cramps while riding your bicycle. Some interesting little statistics or ways to deal with cramps. So it's something that is pretty cool. And if you ride bikes a lot, you know what I'm talking about. Bicycles, that is. But it's something that is huge. And one of the other community engagement activities that I want to talk about is celebrating an individual by the name of Mr. Schimel, who is a veteran of the Army. He actually served over in Pearl Harbor. His first name Richard Schimel. He enlisted in the Army in the late August 1940, and he was stationed in Oahu, Hawaii. A few months later, he joined the former Signal Aircraft Warning Service. He was too young to serve at 18 years old, and he forged his father's permission and signature on the enlistment form and helped install the mobile radar stations that would collect data and then become a plotter and switchboard operator at the information center at Fort Shafter, just east of Pearl Harbor. And we have a photo up on there. We have Sergeant Williams, we have myself, we have two Army veterans, Officer Beitelman and Sergeant Ware, and there's Mr. Schimel in the front. Great guy, very lucid, somebody that paved the way for our future, for our freedom. So to Mr. Schimel, his family that showed up, thank you. Sir, I wish you many more years. On behalf of the Allentown Police Department, I congratulate you on this momentous occasion and an event. And you are somebody that we are to live by, somebody that is an absolute treasure here in the city of Allentown. So thank you, sir, for your efforts made during the time that you were in service, and that now as somebody that our young people and even myself can look up to. So thank you, sir, for doing that, and that's very much appreciated. Powell Middle School basketball is starting up again. We have a few photos on that, so that's a very exciting thing. I remember prior to COVID, I was very fortunate enough to present the championship trophy. It was held over at Muhlenberg, I think, and that was a little bit ago. But you have teams out there competing. So if you want to get involved in Powell basketball, it's Powell Middle School basketball. Go through there, and if you have any questions, reach out to your community outreach unit. But the kids are having fun out there, having a great time, exercising, not really on the tech part of it, you know what I mean? Because I don't remember having that when I was a young person, but now that we have the basketball, we can kind of carry on with that and make sure that our kids are engaged. And I do want to recognize Detective Garcia, because he has been visiting schools. You talk about social media awareness, and so far he's visited over 10 elementary schools. Detective Garcia, that's outstanding. Can you talk a little bit about what your message is and how maybe parents or groups can kind of request maybe you talking to them or bring awareness to this?
Absolutely, Chief. So the social media awareness is also for the video game applications. And so our goal is to provide like a 45-minute to an hour presentation. And basically, it's a short PowerPoint. We have a conversation with our youth. They're actually the subject matter experts. So every school I've been to, I've learned about a new social media app or game. And you know, a lot of these games you can play live with other folks that you don't know, and so we talk about those things. So we talk about online predators, we talk about inappropriate content sharing, we talk about cyberbullying, we talk about geolocation, we talk about just a couple of things that you could encounter in these games and social media. And so it's been a great experience. Like I said, I try to make the youth understand that they're teaching us, and it's just a conversation. And you know, this is all stemming from, you know, obviously the things that have happened in our communities where we do have online predators. We have young kids probably sharing, or you know, hopefully not, but inappropriate content, cyberbullying, all the things that we have encountered. So, you know, and thank you to our charter schools, our local district, Allentown School District. With open arms, they allow us to come in and be with their fifth graders. So if they want to reach out to us, find us on our Facebook page, Community Outreach Unit, and by all means, or our crime prevention page on our website, and you can find my phone number there, and we'll be able to come out and provide that lecture.
Detective Garcia, thank you very much for that. And it's very important information, because sometimes you don't know what you're getting when you enter into the cyber world. And it's important that we as a community understand and protect ourselves. You know, and that's something that is hugely important. This past May, the past month, we also had National Police Week, and we awarded several commendations to our officers as well as citizens that have, you know, put themselves into a situation worthy of recognition. And it's something that is huge. You know, the ultimate thing is to celebrate our lost officers, those that have gone before us and paid the ultimate price, either through on duty or off duty. You know, and just this past year has been kind of hard, you know, with losing Detective Stanko, also retired officer Tony Skoka, to name a few. But it's something that we as a department want to recognize our officers, the officers that have paid the ultimate price and that have done that. So we absolutely were there to honor and remember our fallen officers. You know, it's a very real thing, and it's never acceptable for the very institution of policing to be targeted. You know, you see it in the communities where sometimes officers are targeted, and that is unfortunate. And we want to not make that normal. We want to make that abnormal, and it's something that people will be held accountable for. And the safety of our officers is vital to the public safety overall. And our strategy is that we need to come together, folks. We cannot have separation. If you're hearing somebody talk about having a divided plan or agenda that doesn't quite thrive with you, trust your gut. All right. Know that we are here for each other. We're here to build this community even stronger. You're constantly going to hear that from me, because it's establishing that foundation. No longer are we doing business in silos. We are here together. You know, the mayor says it pretty plainly, you know, all in for Allentown. And there's no separation in that. There's about coming together. There's about doing the things that we can benefit each other. You know, and that's the point that we have to make. And I'd love to have that community support for that purpose. You know, and that's not just for those that are engaged in a positive way with us, but for those that might have a negative connotation. I welcome you to come in. We can have a conversation, show you the department. You know, some of the things we're doing around the city is engaging in that way. So we're approachable, and we're only a phone call or an email away. And it's very, very cool to reach out to us, and we'll be able to connect you with what you need to know. Some of the things that we want to do too is I want to talk about some joint patrols that we're doing over the summer, you know, and now is currently happening. You know, we've partnered with the Pennsylvania State Police on some joint patrols. And this doesn't stem from any form of violence that preceded it or anything of that nature. It's about developing those relationships. I'm very big on that. And I want to make sure that our community is well represented out there. And in reaching out to the state police, you know, we've arranged to have some joint patrols at various times in the summer so that we can have that interaction with our community, that we can hold people accountable that are choosing to do crime and say that in Allentown, criminal activity and bad choices of that nature are not welcome here. We want to be sure that you, as a community member, are protected, are safe, and are reporting things that are happening. Because I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, change begins with you. I'm going to repeat that. Change begins with you. the commitment, the effort that you have into this situation, that we can work together, at times may seem frustrating, but I will urge patience. I will urge for us to come together. They say, the old saying, Rome wasn't built in a day, is absolutely true. We are the masters of our creation, and we're going to be able to make this how it needs to be. I'm not talking about a pipe dream. I'm talking about the reality of the situation. The reality is that we need to grow our police department. We need to support our men and women in uniform. We need to be able to have that relationship building, but that comes from having an understanding with each other, that it's not an overnight thing. It's something that takes time. And I commit to you that we will build the Allentown Police Department into a culture of professionalism. And it's something that we have to do together, because our officers are out there every day, and I commend them for that. And we want to make sure that we attract the right person to become an Allentown police officer. So if you are in college, if you are somebody that's coming out of the military, if you're somebody that's looking to do something in the community, I urge you to watch for our active hiring processes and come along. Be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. And I want to tell you guys something. Many of our people that are becoming police officers are coming to Allentown because they want to be part of this community, part of what we're doing. And that's huge, folks. That's not my words. That's the words of the people that are coming to be Allentown police officers. Remember, the change happens with you. And I'm looking at you and I'm letting you know that don't be scared. Come through. Make sure that you put in your application. Make sure that you come and put yourself forward. The process, yes, you do have to be in shape. Yes, you do have to have a clean background. Yes, you do have to follow a schedule. And it's a lot to do. But the more that we can grow, the more effort that we put on making our city better, it's going to have that ripple effect. And it's not just going to be the police. It's going to be throughout the community. But that takes time to get there. And you guys are a big part of that. And I want to just say thank you. And if you're considering to become a Allentown police officer, we're working on ways to keep that pipeline going, to make sure that if you put something out there, an interest letter, that we're going to reach back to you and let you know when that open period is at. So stay tuned for some more information on that, because that's going to happen. So I thank everybody for listening on that end. Some upcoming community events. We have the community meetings coming up. Some of them have passed already, but if you want to get involved, this is all part of that community engagement piece. We have various meetings throughout the city, and it's not just police meetings. We can talk about various other things there, and there's other representatives from the various city departments that attend, where we're able to solve different things. And you'll see a flyer up on the screen right now, where you have all the different meetings that you go through. And if you live near one of the meetings, I welcome you to go there. But if you can't make it, no harm, no foul. Stay tuned with us. Follow us on our Facebook, the information that we put out there, our different social media, because it's key, folks. You want to be involved. The president of each respective community group members, they do a lot, so I thank them for their service. But being able to kind of connect with the information that's out there is the step. That's when you get informed. Our officers come there. We'll give a crime stat update for the neighborhood in your area. And you can also voice any concerns that you have. Sometimes I hear, well, we sent you that information. I said, well, where'd you send it through? Facebook. Again, I want to say we don't monitor Facebook 24/7, but it's a useful engagement tool. If you have something that you want to bring to our attention, please send it through. It'll get followed up on. And some of those things, like I talked about, the Checkmate card, some of the Checkmate cards are available through the community groups that you can get there. Or if you want to request one yourself, you can reach out to our community outreach unit or email that request at apdcommunity@allentownpa.gov. So if you have time, attend the meeting there, and that way you can be informed. But I understand that everybody can make meetings because there's different kids events. There's summertime we're coming upon. Vacations are coming through. The cost of gas is up there, but I still think it's good to get away at sometimes. You gotta have that work-life balance, right? You gotta be able to be there for your family in addition to your work. And I thank you guys for what you do on that end. And again, if you have any questions about it, reach out to our community outreach team. You can reach them at 610-437-7741, option 2, and ask for Sergeant Williams or Sergeant Leonard. They'll be able to assist you. There's going to be we want to talk about dirt bikes and any suspicious activities. We have some things in place for that with the dirt bikes. Please keep reporting that. It might seem like we're not responding, but we are. And as we are able to, for the tip 411, we'll answer you back. If there's additional questions that we have, it will be asked, but the timing of that is depending upon that conversation. Our officers are checking on different things. They are stopping some of them. They are taking some of them into custody. But it's important that we continue to work, and we're gonna approach this from multi-pronged effect. We're gonna approach it from state legislation. We're gonna approach it from getting the information through the tip 411. We're going to be able to come up with a possible local ordinance to be able to assist us with that. And it's something that we're going to keep going. So for those that have been providing information, thank you. Absolutely vital. It's great that we have that, because now we're able to connect pieces of information, because what might not seem important to talk about or to report might be that missing piece that we need to connect all the dots. So please don't give up on us. We're here for you for the long haul. There's nothing that is going, it's not a short fix. It's something that we're going to work together. And I want to say thank you for that. And in May, it's the mental health month. So we want to say thank you for all the support there. I'm a father of a son that has autism, and his last day of school was yesterday, so he's home helping my wife doing some gardening and everything like that. And people are special, and we want to be there to provide that support, and we want to be able to connect our community with the love that it has, and many people have that. And, such organizations as NAMI, amongst others, the flyer that we have up on the screen, you are not alone. Don't suffer in silence. We have support for you. We want to make sure that we can connect you to those resources. We work closely with our community intervention specialists through Prime Book Family Answers. We work with Crisis, as well as the hospitals, and we're going to remain committed to that. Many of our officers are CIT trained, crisis intervention team officers, and they have a focus on de-escalation and connecting with the community, and also resource referrals. We met with some nonprofit groups such as Promise Neighborhoods with their groups, and having some assistance in that end, because it's about resources, folks. It's about not just the police solving all the problems. It's about how we can collaborate together to be able to utilize people's strengths, and that's one of the things, is building those relationships amongst all our different groups that are out there. This isn't about division. This is about how we can come together to make sure that folks know Allentown is different. All in for Allentown. I'm going to repeat that. All in for Allentown. And if you want to be part of that, be part of the solution, come through, attend a community meeting, offer some suggestions. We'll take your suggestions. I'm not a king ruling from a throne. I'm a chief working with my people so that we can move the city forward. And part of that group, I want you to be part of that team. So regardless of what your past was, come through. We got to make a change, and we got to do it today. And we got to make sure that we're on the same page. And with that, excuse me, our 9 p.m. initiative, you guys are seeing it. You're going to hear me say it. You might get tired of it, but it's something that I really want to talk about. Larceny is real. That's theft. And some of the highest crimes that are out there is theft from motor vehicle. So the 9 p.m. initiative reminds you of certain items that you should be doing, such as lock up your vehicles, your house, turn on your lights, porch light, and bring in valuables. At those points, sometimes some of the things that we're seeing that are missing is laptops, is jewelry, money, walkaway items, cell phones, firearms. It's important to make sure that you protect yourself and you keep your valuables safe. And this is not just unique to Allentown. Wherever you're at, always be mindful of the situation. Always be mindful of what's going on. It's key that we work together in our community to solve a lot of these things. And that theft from vehicle is a very preventable crime. So help us in bringing that number down so that we can have a reduction in that Part 1 crime. And that way, that can be something that will be huge as we move forward. And if you see a neighbor that's doing it, have a conversation. Hey, I caught the Chief's podcast, and he was talking about, locking your vehicle so people don't have the ability to just go open that unlocked door, grab that valuable that you worked hard for. You worked hard for this, and they're taking your gains. So don't let that happen. Don't be somebody that will just leave it open. Make sure that you can harden yourself in that, that we want to make sure that we're together on this and we can help each other in having that information and passing it to somebody that might not be hearing this right now, but in the future, if you're hearing it, you can be able to pass that on. And finally, our social media reach is out there. We have our Facebook, we have our Twitter, we have our YouTube, LinkedIn. Please connect with us. We're here for you guys. I want to say thank you for those that were here today listening and for those that are going to listen later. I appreciate you. And remember my message. Let's unite. It's time to stop working in divisions or how to separate. It's more about how we can come together across the board, all in for Allentown. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen. Many blessings. Thank you.